Okay, welcome back again. Today we are looking at the divisibility rule by 4. How do we know if a number is divisible by 4? Well, we can make a rule up. Like, for example, I know a number is divisible by 4 if what? So today we're going to look at how do we come up with the rule of divisibility by 4. Let's take a number like 100. Okay, and I'm going to use a 100 block to represent 100 here. This big blue square is a 100 block. It represents 100 things. If this is the number 100, I could ask you the question, and I will ask you the question, is 100 divisible by 4? And the whole rule, if you remember, is the whole rule for 4 is based on this idea. Is 100 divisible by 4? Well, let's have a quick look here. Let's divide up this 100 block. I could put a line right down the middle there. I can maybe throw another line right down there and another line down this part. You have to imagine that my artistry is perfect. But if I just maybe adjust these a little bit, you can see it a bit better. Hopefully you can see that if I take 25 and multiply that by 4, or in other words, if I take 4 groups of 25 things, so you imagine each of these little rectangular sections now is 25 things, 4 groups of 25 make up 100. So 100 is in fact divisible by 4. Or we could also say 100 is a multiple of 4. If 100 is a multiple of 4, then it's divisible by 4. So yeah, 100 is divisible by 4. Now let's throw another number in the mix here. I'm going to put a ones counter out there. So now the number I'm representing isn't 100 anymore. It's 101. So now we're asking, is 101 divisible by 4? Well, if I wanted to make 4 equal groups, let's say this is a group here, I'll just put it underneath here. I can't really put it in either of the 4 groups without making the 3 other ones unequal. So I can't really do this. 101 is not divisible by 4. Well, let's keep going up. Let's try 103. So I'll put 3 more counters in there to represent the number 103. Again, same problem. I can't really divide 103 by 4. And you can see that. I've got a group of 25 and 26. 25 and 1 is 26. 25 and 1 is 26. This group only has 25. Hopefully you can see that I really need one more of these red guys to make that number divisible by 4. Now I've got 4 equal groups of 26, and that's making 104. So yeah, 104 is divisible by 4. Now let me just move this up a little bit here. I'm going to move this whole drawing up there a little bit so we can see this a bit better. Now if I start just sort of going up numbers, let's go up to 105, right? I'm just going to erase this for a second. I don't know, maybe I'll put 105 in. Is 105 divisible by 4? Well, no, it isn't. You can see that if I put this 105th thing into any of these groups, the other 3 again are unequal. So it's got to be a remainder. 105 divided by 4 would be 26, remainder 1. Because I'd have 26 things in each group with 1 left over. So I'm not going to be able to do this. How many more squares do I need to make my next number that's going to be divisible by 4? Hopefully you can see that the next number that's going to work is 108. And the next number after that, I'll just put 1 there, 2, 3, 4. Now I've got a group of 28, a group of 28, a group of 28, and a group of 28. I've got 100, and how many do I have down here? 4 groups of 3 make 12. The next number that's divisible by 4 is 112. So hopefully you can see how this is working. It doesn't matter about the 100 block here. That's always going to be divisible by 4. What I really care about is all this stuff here. Oops. I care about this stuff, whatever's left over. If I'm looking at 112, what I really care about is these blocks over here. If I've got 12 blocks there, if 12 is divisible by 4, then I know 112 is divisible by 4. And that's how the whole rule is based. Now hopefully you can see, I'm just going to erase this for a moment here, and I'm going to copy that, move it over here. Let's say we have a number like 200. Is 200 divisible by 4? Of course it is. I can show 4 equal groups here. There's one group of 50, Another group, these two rectangles, and these two rectangles, 4 equal groups of 50. So yeah, 200 is divisible by 4, no problem. How about the number 300? Now, when I asked this in class, I was surprised at how many people said, no, Mr. M, 300 is not divisible by 4. Hopefully I've got enough space here to copy this guy one more time, kind of shove him over in the corner. So here's 300 now. This number is 300 I've represented here. And we're asking ourselves, is it divisible by 4? And a lot of people said, nope, sorry, not divisible by 4. But if you think of this as rectangles here, okay, and each of these rectangles is 25, remember, because 4 25s make 100. There's 4 25s here, 4 25s here, and 4 25s there. If I group these up into 3 equal groups, it's no problem. I can take these ones here. That group makes one group. 3 more rectangles here makes another group. 3 more rectangles here makes another group. And 3 more rectangles here makes another group. So even though I've got 300, because every 100 block can be divided into 4, that means 300 is divisible by 4. Each group would be 75 in this case. 75, 75, 75, and 75, because I've got 3 25s in each group. So the point here is that it doesn't matter how many hundreds I have. What I really care about is the last 2 digits. So let's take another number here. Let's take a number like 114. Is 114 divisible by 4? Well, I know 100 is divisible by 4. All I really need to ask is 14 divisible by 4? Is 14 divisible by 4? If I replace that with 10 blocks, I'd have 14 blocks here. Hopefully you can see that 14 things can't be divided up into 4 equal groups. 14 is not a multiple of 4. 3 times 4 is 12. 4 times 4 is 16. If I've got 14 things, it's not going to work. It's not a multiple of 4. I'm going to have to group them into 4 equal groups of 3 to make 12, and then I'd have 2 of these guys left over as a remainder. So that's not going to work either. So right away, I should be able to say 114 is not divisible by 4. Okay, so let's see if we can wrap this up now. Let's look at one more number. Let's take an example like 432. Okay, it's a pretty big number. I couldn't divide this in my head, but if we remember that this number 4 here is counting the number of 100s in the number, or blue squares. That's 4 big blue squares. And remember that we've said one blue square is divisible by 4, or one 100 group is divisible by 4. So that means it doesn't matter how many hundreds I've got. They're always going to be divisible by 4. So right up to this point in the number, maybe I'll just switch colors here. Right up to this point in the number, we know that all this stuff, these 400s are divisible by 4. All I'm really concerned about is the stuff left over on the end, these 32 ones, or 3 10s and 2 1s, however you want to think of it, 3 10s, 2 1s, or 32 1s. So I just need to ask, is this last 2-digit section of the number divisible by 4? So if I go, okay, well, 32 divided by 4, and maybe you've got to draw out some groups or however you want to do that, long division or whatever you want to do. But 32 divided up into 4 equal groups, there'll be 8 things in each group. So I've got 32 divided by 4 is 8. So I can see 32 is evenly divisible by 4, no remainder. Or I could also say 32, get a multiplication there, 32 is a multiple of 4. So it must be divisible by 4. So if this is yes, if the last 2 digits are divisible by 4, then the number is divisible by 4. And that's where we get the rule. So we can say, I know a number is divisible by 4 if the last 2 digits are divisible by 4. I can say that. I can say that's true. Or I could say, saying the same thing, I know a number is divisible by 4 if the last 2 digits are a multiple of 4. And so that's how we get our divisibility rule for 4.